So I was the artist in residence at the British Library, and they gave me a year to research whatever I wanted, and I said, yeah, let's do hypnosis, and then it ended up being a book, which is, I'm delighted about. And so it's a strange mixture, this book, because apparently it's supposed to stick to one genre. I didn't really understand that. So it's a kind of historical trot through the archives, and it's also looking at the science, the neuroscience of hypnotherapy, and why we think it works. And it's also got a lot of my story in it, why I'm interested in it, and that aspect. And also, the ultimate thing is about hypnosis is people want to ask questions. They're like, this is all really, really interesting, but what about me? And I just discovered this within, like 10 minutes of being interested in hypnosis. They're like, yes. But what about me? Because will it stop me eating biscuits? Or everybody wants to tell you that they can't be hypnotized, and all of this stuff. So I'm really not going to bother with all the history. I'm going to bore you with a little bit about me, and then I thought, then we'd open it up to questions, and you can ask me questions about hypnosis. Does that sound good? So it will be about you. Because I don't want you sitting there in a negative space going, yes, just hurry up. You can read the history in this very erudite book, which is all there. So, like I say, it's got my story, why I was interested, and I suppose, you'll hear about what first attracted me. But then after that, I was like, wow, this is a really great subject for somebody like me, because it is simultaneously really, really clever, it's really smart, and it works, and it's scientifically, kind of studied, and they do peer-reviewed studies and all this kind of stuff. And at the same time, it's about people doing showbiz in really bad suits. I could relate to both of those things. I just have my name written all over it. So it is. It's about trashy showbiz, and it's about science, and ultimately it's about growth and personal change. Anyway, we'll get to that bit in a minute. So this is my story, part 1. It was New Year's Day, a good day for a new start, surely. We were staying in our friend's spare room, and I woke early and listened to a hypnosis MP3 that I downloaded from the internet. This was my first experience of hypnosis. The closest I'd come before was at university, where most of my friends went to see a stage hypnotist, but instead I went out on a date. If I'd not been in pursuit of sex, I might have started this profound journey of self-realization 2 decades earlier. The sad thing is, if I had my time over, I'd probably do the same again. I was driven to the MP3 by my bird phobia. Right, let's look at that language, my bird phobia. I could have said I didn't like birds very much, but no, I owned it. It was definitely a phobia. That gave it real status. Now, I would say that I got into the habit of being afraid. As I pointed out, everything human beings do is habit, okay? Everything human beings do is habit, and all habits can be changed. That's a big statement which I referred to in the introduction and never really explained, but I do think it's very true. You have to buy the book to make sense of that. Either way, the phobia, the habit, had got in the way of my life. My husband learned never to suggest eating outside ever because of evil seagulls. Never eating anything outside is a huge concession to make to fear, and to ask the person you love to make alongside you. I was once standing outside Sydney Opera House with 2 important theatre producers. A bird swooped near and I hit the deck. It was embarrassing to say the least, but to me it was essential. I had asked my therapist to help me with this fear. She would say, I wonder what the bird represents. Is it your parents? Is it me? Is it your nihilism? She said she thought it was my super ego that was trapped and unable to fly. I said I just wanted to go on a picnic without crying. from the here and now therapists in the room. What I'm telling you is that she didn't help. I don't know where I got the idea to download the self-hypnosis MP3. It was probably desperation. It was probably also very cheap, and it would have seemed like a much better idea than actually paying to see somebody. I didn't think hypnosis was much more of a joke, but I was starting to get bored of avoiding places with lots of birds, so I knew something had to be done. So whilst I was sceptical, and while the rest of the household slept, I listened. I remember having lots of negative thoughts in my head about how stupid the whole thing was, how naff is this music, how embarrassing is this voiceover, how pointless will the entire exercise turn out to be. But before the hypnosis started, the voice said, "There are thousands of people who used to be afraid of birds walking down every street." No, take it seriously. Listen to the naffness. All right. And I thought, oh, I'll just be one of those people who used to be afraid of birds. I'd never role modelled being okay before. Before that, I think I used to aspire to count myself amongst the interestingly screwed up. You know, think about it, our culture celebrates people who elevate dysfunction to an art form. We're encouraged to be like them, and I was really rather good at it. But think of a positive role model. I didn't even know who that would be. Jesus. Oprah. Quite simply, the hypnotic session strengthened my resolve to not be afraid of birds. It melted away and dissolved the fear that I would feel so much panic the world wouldn't be big enough for my pain. I could actually feel it working. I could feel myself letting go of the panic that I had made habit. The mysterious aspect of the hypnotic process allowed me to see beyond the pain that's involved in letting go of pain. And it was kind of easy. I became someone who used to be afraid of birds. It really was that simple. Later that day, I walked into a throng of pigeons on the canal towpath, and they got out of my way. They didn't hate me. They weren't trying to ruin my day. They were smelly and a bit disgusting, and they flapped in a way I didn't like, but I didn't panic, and that's still the same today. And because I'm the kind of person who overthinks things, my imagination started to run away with itself. What else about myself could I change so easily and so efficiently? So I went on a one-day course to learn the basics of hypnosis. And me being me, I took it further, and within 3 years was fully qualified as a cognitive behavioural hypnotherapist. I am one, but I can't say it. It's a straightforward story, isn't it? Yeah. But in the time that I was studying that, everything about my life changed. The first section of the hypnotherapy course came just after my husband was diagnosed with cancer. The second part of the course was just before he was given a terminal diagnosis, and the third fell a year after I was widowed. Death and grief are powerful motivators for destruction or for liberation. Hypnosis was simply the technique I used to make sure that the devastation would set me free, and I used it, and I still use it. So whilst I might joke and be flippant about all this stuff, I really do think it's powerful, because it's not about what someone can do to you, it's about what you can do for yourself. It's about self-care, self-respect, and changing the stories that you tell yourself about yourself. And if that makes your head spin, then it should. Good. If it makes you panic, then I suggest that you are listening to the fear that change brings up, and I'd advise you to push through the pain to what lies on the other side. Or, alternatively, keep flicking through the rest of the book and look at some of the pictures of men with big moustaches. Good. All right. So I thought I might read you one little tiny bit before we have some questions. I'm not going to ask you if that's okay, because you will say yes. Because I'm a hypnotist. Are you ready? Do you want want to go straight? Do you want to go straight to the question? Do you like seriously going? What about media? Okay, so what I did when I was at the British Library, I went through their archives and I spent lots of time, and I think they thought I was going to come up with lots of really, really sort of clever, erudite stuff. And obviously I did, but I also just like came out of the archive going, look at this man, he's mad. And it was brilliant. Yeah, there's some crazy mad stuff in there. Alright, so I'll tell you, and I sort of made lots of friends, that sounds really weird. I made some friends from the archives, because there's just some brilliant characters in the history of hypnosis, and some great moustaches. Alright, so one of my favourites, Henry Blythe, was a stage hypnotist who crossed over the great divide into healing, which he called curative hypnosis. He's indeed an obscure figure in the history of hypnosis, but one I like very much indeed. That mainly stems from his wonderful book, The Truth About Hypnotism, 1971, which is unintentionally hilarious in authorial style and content, but very moving for some unexpected reason. It's a great mixture of fascinating theory, showbiz, anecdotes, and very slightly purple, a sort of wisteria prose. My favourite chapters are 1969, the year of the waltz, in which he outlines his new theories about getting rid of warts with hypnosis. Trust me, it's brilliant. It's really good. And chapter 3, The Twilight Zone, which deals with his attempts to cure homosexuality and other sex perversions. Now, he is benign about this. You have to trust me on this. Well, no, just read the book. Now, honestly, he seems to be genuinely conflicted about whether homosexuality could, and indeed should, be eradicated, and was long ahead of his time in his compassion. Alright, a sample chapter opening which sums up his relaxed, chatty, informal style is this one. As I was relaxing one Thursday afternoon in March, the telephone rang. It's genius, the whole book's brilliant. Anyway. I warmed to him a lot. He's charming, humble, and at the same time, an incorrigible self-promoter. He stood for Parliament as the Labour candidate for Gloucester under the slogan, "Look into my eyes and vote for me." Other stunts include hypnotising the entire Gloucester City football team to improve their performance. Online you can find a feature by Pathé News from 1959 about his attempt. It's called Svengali Means Goals. It ends with a commentary, they won that match, the next, when Henry was away, they lost. That speaks for himself. This is not a huge range of scientific data, admittedly, but it's all good entertainment. He pops up again in 1960 with a bizarre stunt to hypnotise learner drivers so they could pass their driving test. Think about it. He's pictured with his daughter Sally, who later went on to fail her test. With glee. His pioneering work in hypnotising drivers hasn't caught on, sad, isn't it? I don't know why Mr. Blythe delights me so much. I would attempt to reference to his Blythe spirit, but I'm not him, and I wouldn't be able to pull off such flowery prose. So why does he matter? Well, despite being kitsch, slightly foolish, and a bit of a duffer, he is wonderfully genuine in his aims to effect positive transformations in people's lives. He sums up for me the wonderful range of this subject of hypnosis. I salute him.